Hello friends, it's Kat from Meow, Kapow. Today we're going to make a custom stamp using simple household items. I got these little bags to use at festivals when someone buys a very small painting. They're cute, but they need a little bit of personalization. This made me think of a project I tested back when I was an elementary school art teacher, so it's great for artists of all ages. What we'll need are some foam plates, wax paper, a skewer or toothpick, and a sharpie. You also need a pair of scissors, a stamp pad, and a ballpoint pen. Keep some tape handy as well. Your foam stamp will work on anything a normal stamp would work on, so get some paper or cardboard to decorate. Start by choosing your design and tracing it onto the wax paper with a sharpie. Because of the slippery waxed surface, the sharpie will later be able to come off the paper and transfer onto your foam, but it's absolutely okay if it doesn't. On this particular test, it didn't work for me either. I tried a couple of different times to include links to my Facebook and Instagram, but later you'll see I had to remove it because it just didn't work. There's a difference between giving up on something and accepting when something doesn't work. We'll talk about that later. After you have your design drawn out, cut out a piece of plate in the shape and size you need. Tape your design to it face down and go over your lines again with your stick. Here, I'm using a bamboo skewer, but I later learned that a ballpoint pen is actually the best tool for the job. The skewer kept getting caught in the wax paper and making jagged edges. Ultimately, it did work, it just wasn't the smoothest experience. After you've gone over the design, lift up one side of the wax paper and check to see if it transferred. Sometimes the indent into the foam isn't deep enough, so you may need to go over it again, just like me. Now for the moment of truth. I made a loop of tape for the back of the stamp to slide my finger through and give me better leverage, then dabbed it on my stamp pad and... well, shoot. That didn't work too well at all. I've used this technique before, but for smaller things like name stamps, so I know it definitely works, I just don't know why it didn't work this time. Part of me just wanted to give up. I'd already spent over an hour coming up with a design, and I actually made another stamp before this one that I didn't record. A lot of times when something doesn't work out, our first instinct is to give up. Getting frustrated with your work is going to happen all the time. And while it might not feel nice, it's definitely okay. If you can, take a break. Walk away. Try to figure out what you can improve on. When I was ready, I tested a couple of different tools for making the stamps, which is how I found out that ballpoint pens are the easiest to make smooth lines with. The test still didn't look good, but they gave me more information to work with. I started to write down a list of tips to make the stamps work better, and quickly determined a couple of really important tricks. One of the most important tricks I figured out was inspired by a printmaking class I took in college. Whenever we made block prints by carving a stamp out of wood, we would apply ink directly to the wood, then put the block on the table with the ink side facing up, and then place our paper on top of the block, using a spoon to push the paper into the ink. I figured, why not try that here, too? Another technique that really made a difference in this working out was how I applied the ink. When I dabbed the ink pad onto the stamp directly, it worked a lot better than if I tried to use the stamp onto the ink pad or if I tried to rub them together rather than dabbing. Using the dabbing technique is actually a lot easier to do if you have a stamp pad that has a thick raised edge. And lastly, a pretty important rule, when you're using a foam stamp, don't do tiny details. That's part of why I ended up having to remove the links to my Facebook and my Instagram. While preparing to make yet another stamp on a whim, I decided to try the one I had just used, but with some differences in how to apply it. Finally, success. It was both a huge surprise and a huge relief. I guess the message here is don't give up. Make mistakes, they're important to learn from. Don't be afraid to try something new, especially if it can help you grow. But recognize when something is never going to work and don't sacrifice yourself to the stress beast trying to force it. This holds true for art, but especially for life. Be brave, be curious, but always make sure to take care of yourself. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me on this silly little journey. I hope you have a lot of fun making your own stamps at home. Luckily, I made all the mistakes, so you don't have to. I'd love to know about a time when you were able to overcome something to get to a happy ending. Please share. And definitely, if you make a stamp yourself, tag me on Instagram. I would love to see it. My username is Meow Kapow Crafts, but there's also a link down in the doobly-doo. And because the universe will implode and we'll all turn into octagonal space lows if I don't say it, please like and subscribe. Until I see you next time, I wish you nothing but peace, love, and pineapples. Bye!